Hi guys, Miss Vincent, and today I'm in the classroom. So if you see just a little bit of a glare, that's coming from the lights here in the classroom. But today I'm going to talk to you about something called divisibility. And so I'm going to write it on my board so that you can see that word and kind of think about what I'm saying. Divisibility. Okay, and if I look at that word, I kind of see the root word, which is the same as division. So I can kind of think about division when I'm talking about divisibility. And if I say that a number is divisible by another number, it just means that if I divide, I'm not going to get a remainder, or I'm not going to have any leftovers, or sometimes I might say it has a remainder of 0. So let me give you a little example so we can talk about it. If I have a number like 26, and I want to say, hey, is it divisible by 2? I'm really asking, if I divide 26 by 2, will I not have a remainder? So let me divide. So I can get one group of 2 out of the 2. I'm multiplying, I'm subtracting, I'm bringing down. Now I'm dividing. How many groups of 2 can I get out of 6? That's 3. 3 times 2 is 6. So when I'm finished, I don't have a remainder. So math-wise, I could say that 26 is divisible by the 2. That means I don't get a remainder when I'm finished with it. Let's try another one. What if I said, hey, what about 37? I want to know, is 37 divisible by 5? And again, what I'm really asking is, if I divide 37 by 5, will I end up with no remainder, with a remainder of 0? So let me do my math. I know that I can't get any groups of 5 out of 3, but I can get 7 groups of 5 out of 37. 7 times 5 is 35. Oh, but when I do this one, I have a remainder. I have a leftover, so I'm gonna put remainder 2. So if I said, hey, is 37 divisible by 5? You would tell me no, and it's not, guys, because there's a remainder. So a big word, divisibility, but all I'm really asking is, if a number is divisible by another number, you're not going to have any remainder. If there's a remainder, you're going to tell me, no, it's not divisible by. Now, I can always do my division to see if a number is divisible by 1, but there's a couple of things I can do that can make it easier, and then I don't even have to divide. And I love math, but I want to do it the easiest way possible. So when you guys were in kindergarten, you probably sat around on the floor on little carpet squares, and you probably skip counted by some numbers. So I'm going to skip count by 2s, and if you're out there, you can skip count with me. So I'm going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and oh man, I could keep going. But those are my multiples of 2. I'm skip counting by 2. Now here's the neat part. If I look in the ones place of all of those numbers, I'm either going to have a 2, a 4, a 6, an 8, or a 0. A 2, a 4, and it would be a 6 or an 8 or a 0. Or I could say they're even. So if I give you a number, any number, and I say, hey, is 48 divisible by 2? You could do the division, but you can just look in the one spot, and as long as that digit, that number in the one spot is even, you don't even have to do the division. You can just say, yes, that number is divisible by 2. Why? Because in the one spot, it's got an even number. Let's try another one. What if I said, ooh, what about 67? And I said, hey, is 67 divisible by 2? All you have to do is look in the one spot. Oh, but that's an odd number. It doesn't end in a 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0. So if I said, is 67 divisible by 2? You would tell me, no, it's not. And why is it not divisible by 2? That's because it has a remainder. Those are my 2's, and they're fairly easy, but I want us to look at a couple more numbers. Now I want us to think about 5's. So if I want to know, is a number divisible by 5? Now again, back in kindergarten, you probably sat on those carpet squares and you skip counted. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And guys, look in the one spot. I'm either gonna have a 5 or a 0, a 5 or a 0, a 5 or a 0. So if I gave you a number, like let's say 445, oh my gosh, that's a big number. And I said, hey, is it divisible by 5? Can I divide it and not have a remainder? All you have to do is look in the one spot, and if it ends in a 5 or a 0, you're gonna say, yes, it is divisible by 5. There's not gonna be a remainder. Now, let's try another one. What if I gave you 367? And I said, hey, is that number divisible by 5? Meaning, could I divide it by 5 and not have a remainder? Again, all you have to do is look in the one spot. Ooh, and it's not a 5 or a 0. So I know that if I divided this number, I'm gonna have a remainder. So if I said, hey, is 367 divisible by 5? You're gonna tell me no. And the reason it's not is because I know it's got a remainder. Now there's one more we're gonna look at today. This time I'm gonna be back on those carpet squares in kindergarten, and I'm gonna skip count by 10s. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Oh, and when I look at that one, in the one spot, every single one of them has a 0 in the one spot. So if I want to know, is a number divisible by 10, all I have to do is look in the one spot and see if there's a 0 there. So let's try some. What if I gave you 390 and I said, hey, is it divisible by 10? All you have to do is look in the one spot. Oh, and there's a 0 there. So I know if I divided, there would not be a remainder. So you would tell me, yes, it is divisible by 10. Let's try another one. What if I gave you 497? And I wanted to know, is that divisible by 10? You just look in the one spot. There's not a 0 there, so you're gonna tell me no, it is not divisible by 10, and that really just means, oh, I would have a remainder. Now, we're gonna try to put them all together. So we're gonna check to see, is a number divisible by 2? 5, and I'm gonna ask, is it divisible by 2? Is it divisible by 5? And is it divisible by 10? So we're gonna try them all at one time. So I'm gonna work one first, then I'll have you guys try some. If I had 360, and I wanted to know, is it divisible by 2? Remember, for it to be divisible by 2, it's gotta be an even number or end in a 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0. This one's ends in a 0, so I can say, yes, it's divisible by 2. Then I'm gonna check my 5. Is 360 divisible by 5? Remember, with 5s, it needs to end in a 5 or a 0. It does end in a 0, so I'm gonna say, yes, it's divisible by 5. And then the last one I wanna check for, the 10s. Is it divisible by 10? Remember, for 10s, it should end in a 0. Oh, this one ends in a 0. So I'm going to say yes. 360 is divisible by 2 and by 5 and by 10. I would not get a remainder on any of those. Now, I want you guys to try one, and you can pause the video once I give you the problem, and then come back and you can watch me work it. So what if I gave you, let's go, I want to know about 598. And I want you to tell me yes or no. Is it divisible by 2, 5, and 10? You guys try it. Now, if I'm thinking about 2, it's an even number. It ends in a 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0. So I'm going to say yes, it is divisible by 2. When I'm checking for my 5s, it doesn't end in a 5 or 0. So I'm going to say no. It does not. It's not divisible by 5. And then when I'm checking for my 10s, it does not end in a 0, so I'm going to say no. It is not divisible by 10. Now, don't be concerned about this if it seems a little bit confusing, but we'll practice it more and more. But I just wanted to share a little bit about you so that maybe when you're dividing, you can start thinking, wonder will I have a remainder? Wonder will I be left with any leftovers after I'm through dividing?